I want to make one final point too. You know, when talking about all these books, well, besides the first one, we just talked about Ultimates and, you know, selling raw for $50, which is pretty solid. But, you know, you look at that $1,600 9.8 Thundercats, you look at that $515 for Uncanny X-Men 282 9.8s. We don't, to everyone watching, even if you're in the market for some of these books, and I talk about this all the time, like I'll go buy, you know, I'm buying my Strange Tale books. I don't need 9.8s. I get these for like $10. You know, I get a nice, fine looking copy for $10 and I'm good. But the thing is that there's a market for 9.8s right now that's booming in and of itself, right? You get people that come in and collect variants to the hobby. You get people that come in and only want to read books. You get people that may only buy digital copies, right? And just read on their phones or tablets. Right now, there are a lot of, then you get people that just want to grade books, right? But then you get people that are like, they're high rolling and they want that 9.8. And that's why I talk about, oh my gosh, brain fart, print run. Talk about print run or talk about supply and demand and what's available in this market. You can't look at Uncanny X-Men 9.8 CGC selling for $515 and gauge the every book that's on the market at that. That's just one book in one grade. And it's, you know, like D grade. So again, to Robbie's point, it's like, don't come here and take these numbers and go on eBay and try to find a 9.8 or even a 9.6. Go to your shops, go to some flea markets, you know, go on the Mercari app, look for some raw books, look for some raw books that you might be able to find for $20-$30 and, you know, spend a little money to press and clean it. You might be able to send it into CGC and still get a 9.8. So again, just understand that the 9.8 market is on fire right now because there are people willing to spend the money. You don't have to do it. But if you do, and I always say this, if you do, I'm talking to you because I know you're going to do it. I know you got your phone in your hand right now and you're on eBay and you're looking up that Thundercats #1 9.8 and you're looking up that Uncanny 282 9.8. Just if you do it, don't regret it. Make sure you paid your car note. Make sure you paid your electricity bill. Make sure, you know, your wife's, you know, set. You got food in the fridge. You know, make sure your kids ain't going to school with holes in the bottom of their Converse. And do your thing, but be happy with the decision that you make. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. I like what Dan De La Torre, I brought this up before, but there has been too much focus on 9.8 comics. I've scored some sweet 9.6s for a third the price. Even raw is for even less than that. So, you know, guys, you don't, you know, it's always gratifying too to pick up a book, get it pressed, and then have it graded at a 9.8 as well too. So,
hey, can I say something, guys? One last thing too. I talked about this in my Friday Night Live show. Wouldn't it be funny if we should go find a high roller. You know, someone's got a little bit of money to blow, right? And it doesn't have to be a big like Hulk 181 or Spider-Man #1 or something, but maybe a book that's worth $500, $600, or $1,000 in a 9.6, and maybe it's worth like $2,500 in a 9.8. Let's get them to buy a 9.6, right? And have them crack it, clean it, and press it, and send it to CGC to try to get a 9.8. And even if it doesn't come back the first time, see how many times it would take to send it to CGC. Because I'm telling you, one time that book's going to come back a 9.8.
I agree.
And watch the amount of money he paid for the 9.6. And even if he had to send it to CGC like 8 times, he probably still paid a fraction of what you would have paid for an already slabbed 9.8 book.
You may not even have to clean and press it. You can just send it back, and it just depends on whoever's doing it and whatever mood they're in that day, and you know how tired they are. You know, oh, if they just read a Red Bull. I mean, they just had a Red Bull. Maybe you'll get a good mood. You know, you'll get a good grade. You never know. We've done that. We've taken books, been like, oh, that should be more open it, send it back, and got a higher grade. So I mean, it's just then it comes in. Who says that's a 9.8? Like, what? It's so crazy. It's fun though.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I get why people do it. I saw an argument online today where people were arguing. This one dude was arguing how he hates the idea of grading comics because he thinks that's taking comics away from people that can't afford those things. I'm like, first of all, ain't no 4-year-old coming in trying to buy an Amazing Fantasy 15 9.2 or whatever, you know. And he's like, you know, well, as a retailer, if I sell some, and this dude deals in like, he's got multiple Amazing Fantasy 15s, right? Like, he's the guy in this town that's got it, you know, and he's always slinging. He's like, if I sell somebody a book of that, I don't want to hear them argue or whine about any little nick or whatever. Like, it's CGC, bruh. There you go. It's that's the standard right there, right? So, because that will happen. People will be like, well, this, you know, and 9.8 and 9.6 difference on something like an Amazing Fantasy 15 or Hulk 181, bruh, we're talking so much money on just one extra little, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It is kind of interesting though how it's defined the market, man. It's defined these collectibles, and it's you got a whole bunch of new collectors coming in that's just the way it is to them, you know? I mean, when we all started collecting, we didn't know what the hell a slab was, you know, it just wasn't a thing. And now it's become such a huge thing. It's driving the market. And I don't know if that's, honestly, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's something to think about, that it's not like, hasn't always been like this, but it feels like it has, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'll say, I do believe the graded market will continue, or excuse me, the grading industry itself still I call it an infant still. And I do believe there is a lot of room for growth in evolution. I don't think it's going to stay on the same path. We're going to slowly see some changes. And I think ultimately it's going to continue to be a good aspect of the hobby too. And I even said this, I think Jeff, we talked about this last week, you know, so I think in the long run, this hobby has a really good way of balancing things out, you know, and I truly believe that no matter if there's one thing, if something, you know, is taking a negative hit, maybe within the market or so forth, I just think this industry is going to continue to bounce back, and it's going to continue to speak to all of us. And funny, we're going like full circle back to, you know, Robbie's interview and that last question we asked him about how do we enjoy this hobby, right? How do we, you know, and we're always going to get those complainers. But the funny thing is, I'll always say, I do believe this industry or this hobby has a way of really coming back around and delivering something for all of us, no matter how you collect. And I don't think, as much as the industry continues to evolve, I don't think that's ever going to change.